Welcome to PHP Podcast. I'm Mike.
And this is Orlando, and we're here for another Monday mini-sode.
Yeah.
And this one, we're going to just tell you guys how to source.
That's right.
In a mini-sode.
I didn't even look at it. Is that what we're doing? Sourcing. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Most profitable places to source. Oh, that's good. Yes.
In order of cost and selection.
That's like everybody's dream. So if you're a new reseller, like we got the golden ticket for you. And if you're a veteran reseller, I mean, there might be some stuff in here you didn't even know.
So,
but,
okay,
here we go.
This is for everybody. Okay. So obviously we're not going to talk about free. Okay. Free is obviously the best, but here's the thing. The lower the cost, the less selection you'll have. And what I mean is you can be pickier the more you pay. Right. So for example, the first one we have the bins, right? The bins, you don't really know where you're going to come across, right? It's whatever's in the bins, right? And it's a free for all and it's crazy, right? I mean, in San Diego, it's crazy.
Yeah. So what we're talking about, in case you're really, really new, most of you probably aren't, but places like Goodwill will have kind of like almost like an outlet center where the things that haven't sold inside of the thrift store for a period of time kind of make it to. And a lot of times, depending on the region you're in, every bin section is a little different.
And they've stopped doing that. Now it's just stuff doesn't even hit the floor. It just goes right to the bins.
Yeah, some stuff, because they get so many donations, they kind of filter through. They try and put their best stuff in the stores. So the idea is they're going to miss things, but the idea is it's going to be like leftovers almost. It's like, here's the stuff that didn't make it into the stores. This is like the Ross and the TJ Maxx of thrift stores. Right. So this is like the stuff that didn't make it and it's going off here. And a lot of times these places are you pay by the pound, and it can be, again, depending on location, it could be like a brawl. Like you're fighting to try and get into a bin. You want to try and maintain dominance over this bin that you are in front of, because other people come in and start sticking their hands in, and you're literally just pulling through and you're like, oh, these shirts, these clothes, here's some shoes. Oh, here's a piece of electronic. Just a piece. Okay, to put that back. All right, that's wet. Not sure what that is. And you're kind of just digging around inside of this stuff. And the thing is, again, it can be useful in the sense of if you're able to fill up a trash bag of clothes and you're spending $8 for that bag when you walk out, and you've got each one of those pieces of clothing, if you knew what you were doing, you're going to be able to sell for $10 to $15, $20. That's huge profit. So like the barrier to entry is a lot lower. I guess that's what we're trying to say. The barrier to entry in the sense of you're going to spend less, but unless you're lucky or you're consistent or you absolutely know what you're looking for, the chances of finding the best items are a little bit lower. So it's like the trade-off. Your cost is lower, but your potential.
It's more sweat equity.
That's right.
And that's what I'm trying to express. Like as it gets more expensive to source certain things, right, it becomes easier, right? Because you're not like, if you're going to the bins, it depends where you're at. Like you gotta have protective armor. You gotta have.
I don't know if I would say easier either, because it could be more challenging because you have to have more knowledge as you start.
True, but your cost is way low,
or higher. Your cost is low at the bins.
Yes.
Right. So yeah,
that's what I was
and as you move up, it goes up.
Yeah. Correct. And so this next one is garage sales, where you can get stuff for really cheap. I mean, if you follow us on Instagram, I try to go every Saturday. I think this last year, there's only 4 Saturdays I didn't go garage sales. The other 48, I was at garage sales. It was kind of crazy. But the reason I kept going was things were so cheap and there was so much. Right now, I had no certainty on what I was going to pick up, right? There were some Saturdays where maybe you picked up 5 items or none. There's other Saturdays I picked up 100 to 200 items, or maybe even more. Or I picked up 5 items and they were just as valuable as the 100 or 200 I picked up the week before, right? So there's still that sweat equity, right? You have to go out and you have to drive around. Obviously you should be doing research before about where you're going to go, okay, and what you're looking for. But then you don't know what you're going to find. It's just like the bins, right? You show up to a house and there could be absolutely nothing at that house, just like there's absolutely nothing at a bin. But you can go to one house and it's a treasure trove and you score huge, or you find that one bin and it's a score, except you're paying more at a garage sale than you're paying at the bins because you're buying individual items. And you can bulk them sometimes and you can get a great deal.
But typically one of the benefits of being at garage sales, and somebody said this to me one time when I was at a thrift store, they're like, you're a reseller, aren't you? You know, you should go to garage sales because people who sell stuff at garage sales are selling stuff they think is actually valuable, whereas the stuff they give to thrift stores is probably junk. And I'm like, you know, there is some truth to that. And that's not a perfect, I think that's a good rule. Then there's many exceptions to that rule. But you go to garage sales, usually people, I mean, sometimes you're like, man, this is just junk. But a lot of times people are putting out stuff that they think it could sell. So it's stuff that's valuable. Whereas stuff that they're like, oh, this is just junk, they're throwing away or they're sending to a thrift store. And that's the kind of stuff, the junk of that ends up going to the bins. So when you're at a garage sale, the chance of finding stuff that's a little bit more valuable is actually higher because you're almost going through one filter process of the people who are current owners, and they might have a skewed view, but at least in their mind, it's valuable enough to set out on the driveway and ask for money for it, as opposed to just taking it to a thrift store or putting it into a dumpster. So that filter can filter out a lot of junk and helps you to see stuff that is more valuable. So you potentially run into higher quality items at garage sales. And then you have the negotiation factor, which is like a whole nother, like we've done episodes on negotiation. That's the ability to make profits skyrockets. Whereas even at the bins, your ability for negotiations is almost nothing. And so you probably don't need to necessarily negotiate. But in other things that we're going to talk about, negotiation isn't always as much of a case. But garage sales, man, that face-to-face negotiation, on top of the fact that you're dealing with stuff that they think is valuable enough to sell instead of throw away, plus the ability to say, hey, do you have anything else in the house like this? It makes garage sales a win. Agreed.
Now, the next step, right, which you can still get good deals, but it's like the circle or the ability to come across better deals is smaller, is auctions. Now, I would say if you can find an in-person auction, you're going to score way more. Right now, the difference between an online and, a live auction is that on the online, there's plenty of online auctions, right? So there's a lot more inventory to look through. If you go to a local one, it's whatever's there, but it's only the people that are there, right? So I had some friends that would go to live auctions all the time, and I've done some auctions. I remember Goodwill shall not be named, and I think they still do in San Diego. They would do auctions for these huge bins of clothing, right? But that auction was scary because you only got to look so much into the bins and then you just had to bid, right? And so, but it was cheap, but the competition wasn't much. It was maybe me and like 10 other people bidding on items, right? But the beauty of online auctions, right, is you can actually research. You can go online, you can take a look at what's there, and you can find stuff, but your competition is far more greater, right? And so chances that you're going to be paying up on certain items does happen. Right. And on a local auction, it doesn't. Again, there's a good and the bad, but with auctions, you can definitely score. And we just had we're going to mention one of our hustle of the week coming up here in our Wednesday episode is how some people buy Gaylords full of items, right, at these auctions, and they get stuff for pennies on the dollar. Right. A lot of the booksellers, right, go to auctions, and a lot of, big time sellers that do like electronics and so on. There's some electronics recycling centers and so on that you can pick up a ton of stuff. So definitely check out auctions. A lot of people love going to like the government auctions that you can go online. We actually in San Diego, we have a couple, they're not government, but they're like police auctions. But you kind of got to wait, it's less time that you're spending going to a bin or going to garage sales, but you're also dealing with more competition and you're going to be paying more.
Yeah, your price goes up, but again, the potential for higher quality goes up, especially with the online thing. When you're dealing with you could be getting auctions for cars, for professional kitchen equipment from restaurants. You're starting to get into higher end things where the profit potential goes up, but the cost to acquire those goods is also going to go up. So that's the trade-off there. And talking about auctions where we can go a little bit lower, and we're talking about online, is our next one is Whatnot. Now, Whatnot, again, you're dealing with auctions in a sense, and you've got that filter of not only is this something that like a person at a garage sale thought was valuable, or somebody at a thrift store thought was valuable to price, but also a reseller most likely picked it up and thought, hey, this is valuable. So you get multiple layers of somebody saying this is quality inventory. This probably isn't just hey, this is a bunch of nonsense stuff. Now, again, that could happen, but with Whatnot, if you're not familiar with it, it's live auctions that are happening. And when I say live, I mean somebody's recording them, or not recording, they're filming themselves live. They're broadcasting themselves, holding up an item or showing an item saying, here's the next item that I'm selling. It's a blue pin and it's got, these features, or, and they're selling through inventory. So whether it's hats, whether it's Pokemon cards, whether it's sports memorabilia, whatever channel you specifically go to, you're going to be able to see things that are valuable. But one of the nice things with Whatnot, at least now, is sometimes the competition is actually pretty low, depending on which person you're watching. A lot of people are trying to build their Whatnot stores, and so they're willing to sell things, and there may only be 5-10 people watching an auction. And if somebody's like, oh, I don't buy those types of things, and you're the only one there that's willing to buy the stuff, you might be scoring things at a really low price. They do combine shipping, or the shipping prices get lower with each additional item you buy. So you can get to a place where you're buying quite a few decent things that you can then turn around, list on eBay, and make a decent profit if you're willing to wait, right? Because a lot of times this is stuff that other resellers have picked up, and they've said, hey, I bought 100 vintage, hats, and I don't want to deal with listing 100 vintage hats and how long that's going to take. So I'm just going to auction them all off on Whatnot for about $5 each starting bid. Maybe they go up from there, maybe they don't. I just want them gone tonight. And so you could end up scoring and knowing that, hey, over the next 8 months, 7 months, something like that, you're going to be selling these and making quite a bit of profit off of each one, because you're willing to do the work of taking the pictures, listing, and waiting until the right buyer comes along.
Agreed. And, again, the difference between Whatnot and eBay, you might say, hey, well, if a reseller selling on Whatnot, they can get more money on eBay. It's the amount of time, right? So a person on Whatnot will get that money faster, so they're willing to take a cut. But on eBay, it may take longer to sell, but on eBay, you'll have over 100 million watchers in comparison to that Whatnot auction only has a handful or maybe 100, whatever it may be. All right. And I hope you're noticing, we're not even going to mention thrift stores. I think thrift stores are like number 6, but we're not even going to get there. We're going to end at local deals, because I think local deals, you can get some great scores, and it's a little bit of equity, but it's just equity on your phone. It's equity on your MacBook. And what happens is you can be really selective on what you're picking up, right? So what you're picking up is worth it, right? So you're not spending a ton of time at a garage sale or an auction or at the bins or waiting through a Whatnot auction. Here, you're just going online, you're putting a search, you're finding stuff, and then you're making that deal. So for example, I've had several big hauls recently. I had a Ninja Turtles haul. I had a train haul. I've had a Harley haul. Every single time that I went out to buy these items, I already knew that it has something valuable. So spent a little bit of time online, was able to get a good deal. As long as you do a bulk buy, I find that most of the time people that are doing local deals, if you're able to buy them all out, they're very willing to work with you, because they don't want to deal with a bunch of people coming to their house or having to answer phones or text messages. And there's a reason they're not on eBay. It's because they don't want to ship, or they don't want to deal with customer service. And so you're able to get some really good deals at a great bargain. So definitely, whether it be, Offra, Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, Nextdoor is another one. And there's a few other ways to find local deals. You can definitely make it happen. So just remember, your cost goes up, and the more work you have to, the less work you have to put in, and the more selective you are, the more expensive it'll be. But you're still able to source some great stuff that you can definitely be profitable on. And with that being said, make sure to be real,
be relevant,
and be reselling. Peace.